Like my last video, this will be a shorty. I wanted to do a video to point something out. I think we're on the precipice of the end of the American empire. While I think a lot of people expect serious changes to happen in the next 5 years, that's not what I mean here. I think the thing could collapse in like the next 2 weeks. Let's say Officer Derek Chauvin is acquitted, or perhaps he's acquitted of felony murder and it's a hung jury on the other 2 counts. As a result, massive nationwide riots occur across America's cities. At the same time, bombshell evidence of election fraud comes out from Arizona's audit, which is being planned to start today. Right-wing protests start raging in Arizona. Social media starts its most aggressive campaign of censorship we've ever seen. While all of this is going on, the record number of unaccompanied minors at the borders continue. The federal government is desperate trying to find shelter for tens of thousands of children. Rival powers like Russia and China take notice. America doesn't appear to have a rule of law anymore. People riot and loot openly. The government is more concerned with taking care of people who break our immigration laws than maintaining basic law and order. We're divided and we hate each other. Let's say Russia moves first. Putin is tired of Biden calling him a cold-blooded killer who has no soul. He doesn't want to deal with US sanctions for supposedly interfering in the 2016 election. Russia currently has 80,000 troops on the border of Ukraine. Everyone agrees that without assistance, Ukraine will lose that war to Russia. Ukraine is a quasi-member of NATO. If NATO doesn't intervene, all of our allies will begin to doubt the ability of the American empire to protect them. They might as well instead start building up their own militaries. If Russia takes over Ukraine, it gets to build the Nord Stream 2 pipeline. That would allow Russia to pipe oil directly to Europe, which could be sold in rubles. Now, I'm not an economist. Economics isn't something that particularly interests me. It's a social science, and I feel therefore it lacks a lot of predictive validity. I'd be skeptical of any attempt by the government to put sociologists in charge of everything on the understanding that they're experts when it comes to social problems. For the exact same reasons, I'd be skeptical of putting economists in charge of the government. I'm sure many of you have noticed that recently the US has been printing a lot of money. Most economists, at least the types of ones favored by the right, oppose this. They say it'll cause inflation and eventually a collapse. Yet there wasn't a collapse when they did this as part of TARP in 2008. The economy hasn't collapsed since we started doing this last year. One explanation for this is the petrodollar hypothesis. The global homo system requires all sales of oil to be conducted through the US dollar. If you want oil, you need dollars. Dollars are easy to get though because America runs up huge trade deficits with most countries. They get a lot of our dollars. In exchange, we get a lot of goods and services from them. Usually when people talk about America's trade deficits, it's in a negative context. However, you can look at it from the opposite perspective. You sold America thousands of dollars worth of TVs, and all you got were pieces of paper in exchange. Was this a good deal for you? It depends on how you and other people value that piece of paper. Requiring oil to be paid in dollars creates additional demand for them. This allows the US to run massive trade deficits every year without its economy collapsing. America doesn't have to make anything. Our economy is mostly just retail and services, jobs that only require low-paid workers who can be easily replaced with immigrants. Many people have theorized that US foreign policy has been heavily slanted towards maintaining the petrodollar. Iraq was invaded after Saddam Hussein announced a plan to sell oil for gold. Gaddafi planned on the same thing before Hillary Clinton authorized his assassination. So if Nord Stream 2 is built, it could mean a pretty big economic collapse for the US. If Russia invades Ukraine, China will likely see it as an opportunity to invade Taiwan. America has begun providing weapons to Taiwan, foreseeing a Chinese invasion. If China is serious about reunification, it will never have a better opportunity available to it. With rioting all over the US, the border crisis, and the Ukraine situation, the US government would already be spread very thin. It also cannot be emphasized enough that there has never been a president as weak, frail, and totally unpopular as Joe Biden. If Joe Biden cucks to China, the US will lose a lot of military power in Asia. As a country that does tons of trading with Asia, this would definitely hurt our economy. Right now, 90% of semiconductors used by US tech companies are made in Taiwan, so it would be a huge blow to our tech industry specifically. It would also lead South Korea and Japan to believe that we're not a dependable ally in the region. The situation I described could happen in reverse. China could invade Taiwan first. Russia could then see it as an opportunity to invade Ukraine. Of course, there is an option C. The US or NATO could go to war with Russia and or China. This would be the first war where opposing sides both have nuclear weapons. We could agree not to use them, but there'd always be the possibility that one of the sides would break the agreement. There would be a constant debate on whether we need to strike first with nukes. Even without nuclear weapons, this would probably be the most brutal war since World War II. The government would have to start drafting people. How would you feel getting drafted into Biden's military? You know, the one where you get court-martialed if you forget to wear a COVID mask at the firing range? A military where the diversity and gender equity policies are more dangerous than the opposing soldiers? Of course, Antifa and BLM are gonna throw fits about a draft as well. If they think it'll be like World War II where everyone's eagerly to volunteer to serve and show their patriotism, forget it. It's not happening. Half the country doesn't even believe the president was democratically elected. They're not gonna trust the news media telling them that they need to go die in Ukraine for America. The situation could also balloon further out of control. With the US distracted, Iran and Syria could attack Israel. Alternatively, they could liberate Iraq from the US occupation government. Russia could support a Taliban attack on the US troops in Afghanistan. And of course, North Korea could always invade the South. It could quickly turn into a full-blown World War III. I'm just speculating here though. Perhaps none of this will happen. If 4 weeks from now though, these things do actually happen, I think I deserve to be the new Q. In that situation, I demand my own army of cultist boomers. Anyways, I'm not trying to form a new death cult here. I just wanted to do a short what if video. If you enjoyed it and you're not subscribed to my channel, please support small YouTube channels like mine by subscribing. Thanks.